There we go. So we're recording. So thank you guys for coming today. And I've got with me Chris Sprague. And Chris is a video marketer, kind of similar to me. Chris and I have collaborated on a couple of projects. And I'm pretty new to Blab. I know that Chris has been using Blab for a while. So we're just going to go through maybe a half an hour today, just have a chat about how Chris is using video marketing, what his business does, and kind of anything. And feel free to pop in there. I see that Chris is a friend, so feel free to pop in there and really ask the hard questions then. But Chris, maybe you could just start us out and tell us who you are.
Who am I? That's a deep topic. Every time I hear that question, I always remember the Billy Crystal line in Analyze This. Yeah, the first one where he's in the meeting with the mafia guys, and he says, "Who are you?" And says, "Who I am." It's a deep, But anyway, since we only have a half hour, we won't go on a tangent. Yeah, my name is Chris M. Sprague. I'm the creator and founder of VCN TV, the Video Content Network. And as Brighton said, we've collaborated on a number of projects before. Love video, been doing video in one way, shape, or form for over 25 years now. I know I don't look a day over 18. I know the look on Brighton's face is like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah." In the 80s, I was doing the high school television station. Late 80s, early 90s, I was already videotaping bands. I mean, I remember the big on-the-shoulder cameras and.
My father had one of those. Actually, he had the one with the where it was you would drag it would drape over your shoulder, and the video recording part was down there, and the camera was separate, and then you had to wear a belt for the battery. Like that was separate. Times have changed.
Times have sure changed. So Brighton invited me to come on. We're just going to talk about video today.
Cool. So maybe you can jump in and tell us a little bit about Video Content Network and what it is that you do. I do want to just kind of, I don't want to find out more about your business and maybe just some tips that we can give to people for when they're doing, their own video content networking. If they're working with a videographer, they're doing it themselves. I also want to talk about equipment today, what you use, what does it take to make it happen? But why don't we start with what it is that happens? Because I think what you've got going on is kind of a unique idea, and I really like it. So I want you to explain that to everyone.
Sure. So I started Video Content Network, or the Video Content Network, VCNTV.com. And yeah, I can talk today. So that's, I've only stumbled 3 or 4 times. I'll be okay. It spawned from an idea that an ex-JV partner and I had to do video content creation for small business owners and really teach people who consider themselves professional practice builders how to create video content marketing. We did that. We ran a society for about a year, which seems to be the normal cycle for something like that. And then we moved in and we created a show called Expert Showcase, which brought experts on to a web-based television show that had them dial into a remote virtual studio. We'd sit there, we'd record the episode, we'd do a little bit of post-production, and we'd cut it out. We'd cut it up and put it out to the internet. Starting from there, realize that there's really a need for people to have this post-production back-end facility, because let's face it, part of the reason, as an example, part of the reason Blab is so nice is you just show up and record. Well, that's what we do, only we take it to the next level with branding and lower thirds and all the stuff that makes it the next level up of television production. And then based on Expert Showcase, I ended up creating VCN TV, the Video Content Network, and now we're rolling out additional shows, additional channels, and building a digital television network. And for those of you who are familiar with Discovery Digital Network, they've got things like Revision 3 and SourceFed, the Philip DeFranco Show, Hack 5, and a whole bunch of other shows. It's similar to that. The end goal of this, and this is this is part of what's finally going out into the ether now, is the end goal of this is to create enough good online content that we can funnel down into enough epic hosts and show ideas and shows that can eventually be taken, packaged up, and put on cable television as a cable television station. So to wrap this up, if you picture it's kind of like a feeder system, if you know anything about Major League Baseball, you've got your single A ball, your double A ball, triple A ball, you've got the minor leagues, and then you've got the major leagues. Well, that's kind of the feeder system that we're in the process of building right now.
Very cool. So I would love you to touch on the why behind why you do this. What is it that, deep down inside, why is it that you think this is the thing that Chris M. Sprague should be doing with all of his waking hours? Because I know you spend all your waking hours on this. So what's that deep down inside why?
It's a couple things. One is to help people get their message out. Now, let's make no bones about it. You can use Blab. You can use YouTube live events. You can now broadcast on Facebook. You can do a lot of things to get the message out. So that's not the real differentiator, but it is one of the reasons why I do it. The second reason is that I firmly believe that coaches and consultants and speakers and people I guess to slow down for a second, coaches, consultants, and speakers need to be doing what they do best, which is getting their message out, which is worrying about, coaching people, which is worrying about how to spread a good message. And I've seen so many people struggle so much with the back end and so much with the post-production and so much with all the technology that I figured if I could create a company that would help them solve that problem, then they could do what they did best. I could build a company that did what it does best, and everybody would be happy. Because let's face it, in the end, technology, they always talk about the fear of public speaking being one of the biggest fears in the world. Well, if you talk to a lot of public speakers or coaches or consultants, it isn't the fear of public speaking anymore. It's the fear of the technology, because we live in this technology-based world. So why not create a company that helps overcome that and gets, once again, that next level of, production value for people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, this is kind of, I'm new to Blab, and I think this is really powerful technology, and it's awesome. But everyone, I'm sure, can see my eyes darting around the screen here as the host here. I'm just like, okay, are people coming and going, and what's going on? And is it definitely recording? What do I need to be paying attention to? And I was telling Chris before we started that I just got off another Blab, a friend of mine, and she was interviewing someone. I was just kind of hanging out in the audience, and all of a sudden I heard her say, "Oh my God, it's not recording." And it had started recording, but somehow it stopped recording. So I think, that's really, this technology is great. It's just maybe it's not quite there yet. And I'm not sure if it'll ever get there. Kind of like if you buy into a teleconference service or something, there's always someone hanging out there in the background where you can be like, hey, press 0 and someone will come and help solve your problems. And that's, things like Blab and Periscope and all these great Google Hangouts. Something goes wrong, that's a problem, and it's going to make you self-conscious and not be able to present your material. And that's something, I think you're right. It's the fear of technology. And when it works, it's amazing. But when it doesn't work and there's no one there to solve it, that's the problem. And I think that's one of the things that you really bring to the table is you're the technologist behind it, making sure and giving people the ability to talk about, their expertise and not, be distracted by the technology that they're using.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about, things like Blab and Periscope and this new Facebook live streaming are, and I pause and sigh because I don't know if you've heard about this, but have you heard about Facebook live streaming, Brighton?
I've heard of it, but I have yet to try it.
Well, and so have I, and here's why. The way you get it right now is you submit your driver's license to Facebook to prove you're a real human being. I'm sorry.
That's interesting.
I get it. The youngins out there are free with giving away all of their personal information. But to you youngins who have a driver's license, it's probably not the smartest thing in the world to give it to a big corporation and let them put it in their database. Just saying. So anyway, but the whole point is this, is that when you just want to come on and talk to a couple of people, this is a great forum. If you just want to jump on and have a quick video conference, have a chat, have other people join in, that is great. when you want to go to that next level, when you want to take it to creating content that's going to live out there, when you want to do a full-fledged interview show, when you want to, like I said, when you want to take it to that next level, then you need something or someone to help you take it to the next level. That's why services like GoToWebinar and Zoom and all the other services out there aren't going to go away anytime soon, even though GoToWebinar is extremely expensive, relatively speaking, especially for a coach or a consultant, depending on their income range. Fact of the matter is, they're out there for a reason, because they're beefy technology, because you can do a lot more with it, and you have a lot more advantages. I mean, Brighton, you and I have done webinars together, and we use a combination of different technologies on that to make that happen. Could we have done it in Blab? Sure. Would it have looked the same? No, not. I mean, not in the least. And if you just look at the box, and not to harp on Blab, but if you just look at the box and the limited space you have in here to do some of the things that you might want to do on a webinar, to display things or to do branding and everything, all of a sudden when you cut down to this really small box, it makes it even worse, and it makes it even more cluttered with branding and everything else around it. So I'm sorry, I see Brad may have a question there.
Yeah, he had a question. It was about how do you compare how would you rank Blab and compare that to other streaming platforms such as the Facebook or the Periscope or the Meerkat? And I got to admit, this morning was the first time I did a Meerkat. And because I was like, you know what, I need to know this stuff, even if I'm not working with it. I need to understand it because I am a video guy. And one of the interesting things I'll just throw out there is that with Meerkat, I kind of asked the people who are on the, I don't even know what they call them. They call them scopes on Periscopes. They call these Blabs, I don't know, cats or something. But on that thing, I asked people why do they like Meerkat? And they said it's a small community. And I was like, okay, because that's the thing I've heard is it small? It's not, doesn't have the reach of Periscope. It seems like Blab doesn't necessarily have the reach of Periscope at this point. Just, from my experience of just, you pop something up on Periscope and all of a sudden you got a huge audience. This morning on Meerkat, I had half a dozen people that I was communicating with, but, yeah, so maybe Chris, you've probably got a lot more experience. You definitely have a lot more experience with Blab. I'm not sure about the other ones. What do you think?
So here's what I've seen, and I haven't used all the platforms, but since I've watched the community so closely, I'll give you a quick overview of what I've seen. And we'll start off with Blab. I think Blab is the top right now. And the reason is because of its initial integration with Twitter, and the fact that what they did was, for people with big Twitter communities, it was a easy way to get people to start to see them. I mean, it jumped right over Periscope, right over Meerkat, because of the 4 boxes, because of the host control, and because of a lot of stuff you can do. I think Facebook has shot over Periscope and Meerkat very quickly because. And a lot of people didn't like the way Facebook rolled it out, but Facebook rolled it out to people who were influencers first. And the easiest way you get an idea passed is get it in influencers' hands first. Then you've got Periscope and Meerkat. Now, I think Meerkat might have been around longer than Periscope, but once again, Meerkat stayed kind of small, and it's something that it's a niche. It's a niche type of thing. The reason I'm saying Periscope for last is not because it's the bottom, but because it has the most challenges with, I'll say, having questionable interactions. And the thing I hear most often about Periscope is the fact that people go on and scope, and they have people who they don't really want, and I'm going to be very nice here, they don't really want following their scope. And they have, it's kind of like turned into a night. What I've heard is it's kind of like turned into a nightclub, and that's not a good thing. And that's why Blab kind of jumped over Periscope, because Blab gives you all these controls, gives you easy control. I think you can kick people out, but because there's not as big of a community here to start with, and because you're advertising it to people who are already following you, the risk of interaction is lower. Now, there's one more I want to talk about, that what I find very bizarre is as far as I know, the granddaddy of these all was YouTube live events.
Yep.
And it is a great example of where there was, Brighton, you and I have been using YouTube live events forever. And it's amazing how that was never so publicly made available, yet Blab and everything else just got boom pushed.
Right.
It's bizarre when you think about Google and the fact that they're going to own the world one day, or they do already. If them and Apple ever married, we're in deep trouble. But that's besides the point. But no, it's amazing to see what the lack of marketing for a live event platform. Because I admit, when Blab first came out, I went, okay, so it's YouTube live events light. I mean, it's kind of But but what it is, and I'll finish it. Here's my last thought on this. What it is that because Google Plus never took off in the way they hoped, there wasn't this built-in community for YouTube live events other than people who are already YouTubing, and YouTubers aren't, in a lot of cases aren't running live events. They're doing, their 8 hours of post-production. I mean, Philip DeFranco talks about doing, he spends like 4 or 5 hours writing a script for an 8-minute show. And that's not unheard of, but that's, they really have turned that into a TV medium. So, but that's really the top five at this point. So.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know, YouTube Live, I don't know if they were too early to market. The technology just wasn't quite ready for them. It's definitely more technical. Just even to turn on YouTube Live, you've got to go into, deep into advanced settings and, probably verify your account and do all these different things. And then you can push the little button to enable live events. It's just not nearly as user-friendly. Blab, I think I found is the most user-friendly of all these platforms. And definitely I love the idea, sorry, what was his, Brad mentioned, the ability to interact. Being able to pop someone on video and having that open seat. So Brad, if you want to jump in there in that open seat, feel free to just ask for that and we'll pop you in. But I think that's just so cool that we can do that. And then that you can, push people out of the seat too. Because Meerkat has like a 60 seconds, the seat is open and then it closes and the person is kicked out, which can be good. But I like the idea of having more control and saying, you know what, I want to keep this person on a little longer.
Well, and here's the other interesting thing, just real quick, is the fact of, fortunately or unfortunately, we still live in an ambulance chasing society, which there's a reason. I mean, I like auto racing. Let's face it. There's a reason why people sit for 4.5 hours and watch cars go around in a circle. It's not that exciting until it crashes or until there's a pass or until there's something. Yep. And that's the attraction and allure of these live platforms, because you realize it's not pre-recorded. You don't know what's going to happen. And it taps into this part of your brain that says, I'm going to jump in and see what happens and see if there's anything, see what goes down and see what people say. So
well, also you use the term jump in. I think that's really part of this, is that the viewer is part of this conversation now. It's not just a one-way, Philip DeFranco records his show and then people can comment on it afterwards. But it's almost like you can as a viewer adjust how this works, adjust how the conversation goes. But I wanted to adjust how the conversation's going. And let's see here. Actually, Brad is joining us now. Let's pop him in. Give a sec while Brad pops up. There we go, Brad.
Glasses too, Brad. I'll tell you, looking intellectual today.
Well, I had to get the new glasses.
Oh, we got a little echo.
Hold on. You guys go ahead. Let me figure out my audio.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, actually, Chris, what I wanted to go on to was asking you about the equipment that you use. And we're talking, there's a couple new people here. Thanks for joining. We're talking not only about Blab, but about online video. So, tell us a little bit about what you've got going on there in terms of, what's the equipment you're using?
Sure. Well, I use the HXBC. No, I'm just kidding. That's the answer people normally expect. And, the amazing part about today's technology is you can go to Amazon, and if you own a PC for under $75, buy a 1080p Logitech C920 webcam and have great picture and great audio. If you own a Mac, it's a C930E and it's a couple of bucks more. You Mac people, I'll tell you. But so yeah, from a video camera perspective, it's just a Logitech C920, and as you can see, great picture quality. It has a stereo microphone on, so it's a great, picks up a lot. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of stuff to dampen, like Brighton's got the sound dampeners in the back, which I really need to. So but yeah, from webcam, that's it. From a microphone perspective, I still use the built-in microphone. However, if you're going to invest in a microphone, you want to look at probably the Blue Yeti to start off with. It's the podcaster's microphone of choice. There's a bazillion settings on it, and definitely some people report when they first get it having issues with it, but that's okay. Once you get through it, it gives you a really nice, deep sound. For my headphones, I spared no expense. These are about 10 years old and they're cheap earbuds. That's the whole point. And the reason I'm saying all this is because whether it's blabbing or with other things, you don't need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get out and get started. For under $100, you can have a good set of earphones. You can have a cheap set of earphones that you put on so that you don't get echo in the background. You have a webcam that you can use, and the software that you see on here ends up being free. Now, if you take it to the next level, some of the back-end stuff I use a piece of software called Wirecast from a company called Telestream, and that is a professional level studio recording software that gives me multiple channels and all the other stuff. And that's what I do when I do my TV show and all of the all of that stuff. But for the funniest part is, from an equipment standpoint, the laptop I've got, for the control room, we use she's going on 3.5, 4 years old, but it's a Core i7, and that's the whole point. If you're going to do recording and you're going to do anything more and take it to the next level above a Blab or something like that, where you really want to invest your money in is either a good MacBook Pro or a good laptop that's got, a Core i7. Spend the extra money on the Core i7 and on extra RAM. It's going to save you in the future going forward.
Great. Yeah, totally agree. Before we bring Brad in, actually, I want to answer Todd's question. Have you guys used Mevi, the HD streaming? That's actually something I have not even heard of. Chris?
Mevi?
I've heard of it, haven't used it yet.
So Brad, Mevi, have you heard of it? Have you used it?
Yeah, I know it to be a predecessor to both Meerkat and Periscope, but I also have what I picked up on Blab also that it's kind of a dying format too that may not survive.
Okay, yeah. So Todd, if you want to join us, feel free to just jump in that empty seat there. We'll let you in. Yeah, it seems like I was wondering about that in terms of Meerkat. Is that going to be a format that survives? Because it is, but maybe it's going to live in that little niche. But I would think a lot of these they're going to want to probably be acquired by someone and turn into the next YouTube Live, and maybe Google just throw out YouTube Live and replace it with something like Blab. I could definitely see that.
There's no doubt some of these live streaming formats are being designed and brought to marketplace in their marketing model, probably for the sole purpose of actually making them attractive to the large buyer who and they're put together just for that reason, so that Google or Apple or somebody and they can hit their millionaire home run with whatever technology they brought to the marketplace. They can't all survive.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting part you bring up about YouTube Live events, Brighton, in my opinion, I might be wrong, but in my opinion, I don't think YouTube Live events is ever going to completely go away. I see them, because of how much I use it, I see them building and I see them adding and changing things. I really think they're going to go after a different niche with it. They've never completely gone after this. Are your friends on? Get them on your live event. Yes, they do promote it on your channel. Yes, they do, have a way to go out and punch it out. But it's just something that they've got. I guess the short version is part of the reason I see that is because they give you that ability to have multiple cameras and let the audience control which camera they see. So it's kind of the predecessor of, having this, interactive experience. I wouldn't be surprised if the reason they're keeping it around is because they'll switch it into and really tie it heavily in either with Google Cardboard or with another virtual reality headset, so that you've got that completely immersive experience and you're just sitting there switching between cameras and that sort of thing.
Chris, what is cardboard?
I'm sorry, I have to laugh every time. So here's the short version. When everybody was out developing and spending millions and hundreds of millions of dollars on VR headset, Google went, what's the cheapest thing we can do? Oh, we can take a piece of cardboard, we can draw a pattern on it, you can cut it out, put your phone in, and you'll have a VR headset. And I've never used it, but I'm laughing because and now they're coming out with cardboard version 2. I can't wait to see what a cardboard version. How can you have version 2 of cardboard?
There's a version 2.
I thought it was a joke when I first saw it, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you cut out the pattern and you fold it up like a box and you put your cell phone in. And if you think about it, in the end, it does make perfect sense, because part of the simplest way to get VR is you have your phone this close to your face and you have two different images, one that goes to each eye, and as long as they're separated enough. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Or just 2 phones for one, one for each eye, Chris.
Yeah, that's the super widescreen.
Well, they're getting big enough now, so.
So that's just amazing. And
Brighton, I want to say just thanks for inviting me in. I'm just trying to cut my teeth a little bit on Blab, although I think I got on right about the same time Chris is for Blab. I think I got on about 170 days into it, which I think puts me within about 3 weeks of its launch, actually. And this is only the second time that I've got on. So I'm just kind of trying to cut my teeth on the idea of getting in front of the camera, because I do actually have a plan just to kind of have some fun with Blab, to actually host a program that I want to put together here soon and use that as a tool just to kind of cut my teeth on something more meaningful down the road. So I just appreciate the opportunity to come in and just talk a little bit and get in front of the camera. So thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for being on. And actually, so one of the things I noticed is, are you on a cell phone now? Are you using the cell phone app?
No, I went out and I know Chris can appreciate this. We spent quite a bit of time talking during and after a seminar he and I both attended. But I was under such heavily influence from all the Appleites there that I finally went and got my first Apple product. And so I'm actually using an iPad Mini 4 right now. Okay.
Yeah, because one of the things I was thinking about is, Chris and I have we're on webcams that are locked down. I'm actually using my computer. Here's the Logitech that did not show up, and Chris and I were playing with that earlier, trying to figure out why it's using this. But actually, I'm pretty happy with this image right now. But it seems like having something to lock your iPhone into a position, because so many people, or your iPad Mini. I've got all these types of toys here, but nothing is good for just like, let me just pop my iPhone up and have it look good.
There's a couple brackets out there that a lot of the blabbers and I think just a lot of your podcasters, and I can't think of the name of it, but they've been preaching it up, and it almost looks like a spider, and just about any one position you can form it into will hold just about anything and sit. Well, I think you just went after yours, right?
I've got this, which is cool.
That's not it.
But you're talking about the one with the legs that you can wrap around something.
Yeah, and it'll hold your device, and then pretty much any shape you mold it into is where it stays, and it has to be a lot more. Right now, I'm holding my iPad, and if I want to hold it up here, that's great, but I get tired doing that, so now I got to sit on my leg, and that's easier. So I need something permanent to set this thing. And I would like to use my PC, but I haven't got a webcam for it, and haven't had one on it for a few years, and didn't really have a reason to, but now I do again.
Yeah. So a couple things just real quick for everybody. One of the things you could do is if you have, an iPad with a case on it, you should be able just to fold the case back over top of a monitor, depending on how big, depending on how thick. If you have a thinner monitor, you know, like I've got one that's, I don't know, about that thick, so all I'd have to do would be to fold it over and just kind of, you know, let it rest there. That's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is these little tabletop tripods are great, because they've got, if you get one with the regular tripod mount underneath it, it works great for the Logitech camera. And you can get little mounts that you can put on, that you can hold a phone or something else on and just have it mounted on a tripod. It's similar to the whole wraparound spider thing that I think Brad's talking about. So anyway, those are just a couple. You know, like I've got my Logitech just sitting on on this little Targus TG-42 TT.
Well, you know, Chris, remember my son Clayton that was with us. Well, just before he and I just went out to lunch and came back, and when I came back home, I wanted to jump on Blab and see what was new or different. And he was trying to talk me into going to the store right now, because I've only had this little iPad 4 mini for about 3 weeks, and he wanted me to go get a case for it, because he's been really after me to make sure it has a case. And had I done that, I would have had the little trifold case to set this thing in, and probably wouldn't be sitting here jittering this thing all over my knee right now. So it's funny you mentioned that. He just tried to get me to go to the store just now to get one.
Sometimes the simplest solutions. I know, Brighton, this is going to shock you. This is going to shock you coming from me. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best.
Right. I love that. I think there seems to be a market, because I see people like, they're sitting in bed and they're on Blab, and it's kind of like, holding that camera is kind of a pain in the butt, especially, I mean, if you are using an iPhone and the image is right below the camera. So you want to have it, you can't just, kind of mount your cell phone, or mount your webcam somewhere. You want to be able to look at the screen too. So it seems like there's something missing out there that should be the perfect thing. And, I've got the little clamp for the iPhone. I love the fact that the Logitech has that mount in the bottom. That is one of the key things I think that I love about this, is you can mount it to anything. And then I bought this just last week. I was pretty excited. This is a little clamp to clamp onto anything, anything tubular that has the 1/4-inch mount on it too. So what I use is I use my microphone stand, and the microphone will be on one end and the camera will be mounted to the other end. So I've just got one piece of equipment there. I don't have to have a tripod or anything. It works pretty well.
You know what I see coming, Chris? And this is, and it'll happen in some form or another. But some incarnation of the selfie stick that will include some type of shoulder mounted apparatus, and it'll hold your device out in front of you so you can walk around with it. And it'll be goofy and it'll be silly, but it'll happen, Chris. Watch.
Yeah. And the interesting, what I was going to say real quick for all of those Mac people out there watching, unfortunately, when you buy the C930E, you're going to have to get it because it's the one that works, but it won't have a tripod mount. I don't get why they didn't put the tripod mount underneath the C930. You have to have a 920 because the C930 doesn't actually have.
And the C920 does work with a Mac. You get the software for the C930, I think, downloaded off the internet, and it'll run the C920. So there's some kind of weird combination that you have to put together, and it has the one, and it works on a Mac.
But, and I've heard some people say that, but then they come back after the software. There's something you can't do with the software. I forget if it's focus or zoom, but there's something, even when you get the software, that you lose, and it becomes kind of, people. So that's why,
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit cumbersome. But like I said, I'm really happy with what my webcam is looking like right now. At least for Blab, it works pretty well. So
well, and that's the other thing of it. When you've got a platform like this, it ends up it's kind of like old television. You could have a bad camera on an old television and not really know it because the television quality was bad. You only started to realize it when you started to step up the quality.
Right.
So Blab never really advertises themselves as, uber HD quality, that sort of thing. Even when I do YouTube live events, I mean, we keep it down to a 720p. 720p stream, because 720p, 1080p, yes, there's a difference, but unless somebody's watching it on the big screen, you don't.
Not going to see it.
And remember, Chris, that that Blab is still promoting this as beta. So, there's lots of bugs and lots of kinks being worked out. And I've seen a few incarnations, just since like August when I joined, in terms of how Blab has evolved.
Yeah, it's nice that they're developing extra stuff. I saw this technology about a year ago. There's a show I follow called Hack 5, and it was either on Hack 5 or Film Riot. I forget which. No, it was on Hack 5. So I don't know if they're using the Jitsi Meet platform in the background to create Blab, but there was this package that looks a lot like this video recording, only they've done a lot of extra around it, called Jitsi, and they've got Jitsi Meet and Jitsi Server and everything. So but it's a good platform to use for what it is. Definitely a good platform to use.
Well, very good. I think I do want to kind of start to wrap this up, but I do want pieces of advice. So one piece of advice from both of you for anyone who's trying to use video, Blab, Meerkat, Periscope, YouTube Live, just YouTube videos, a piece of advice that you would give to a beginner with online video for business. Chris, I'm going to call on you first.
I'm going to defer to you, Chris.
So other than the typical advice of just do it, realize that you're going to make mistakes at the beginning, and realize that you're not going to lose your ideal client just because of those mistakes. People are always afraid to get on video because they're always afraid they're going to make a mistake. I know that it took me a year. I mean, I've been doing video on and off for 25 years. And when I got fully back into it a few years ago, it took me a year to make my first video. And part of it was because I was scared I was going to drive away my ideal client. What I didn't realize at that point is that people are going to resonate with me, not necessarily the content, not necessarily the quality, not necessarily 1,000 other things that we're told could make or break our videos. At the beginning, people are either going to resonate with you or not. So just get out there and do it. Show yourself to your ideal client. Get on camera. Make your mistakes while quote unquote nobody's watching, and build up your success and gain that momentum. Because when you do that, that's what's going to make you good. Am I perfect? No, but am I a lot better today than what I was when I got back on video? Sure. And you get better each and every day that you do it.
I love that.
I just want to echo what Chris has said. That's why I'm here. You guys are allowing me to cut my teeth and get familiar and get comfortable on camera, because I know I want to host a Blab here pretty soon, and you guys are allowing me the warm up opportunity. So again, thanks for that, Brighton.
Perfect. Well, I think it was Chris maybe earlier who said something about, I don't know if it was Blab or something being compared to hooking up in a bar or something like that. That's kind of, that's what just came to my mind was the idea, like the guy in the bar who refuses to walk up to the girl because he might say the wrong thing and never does it. And, he leaves, alone every night, versus the guy who's like, you know what, I'm just going to try it. And the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out. But I love the idea. You just got to start, and you're going to resonate with the people. Being authentic will help you resonate with your crowd. Actually, I was riding into my coffee shop office, my office this morning with one of my neighbors, and she, was talking about like, well, do you teach people how to be more confident and like how to really like become something else on video? And I was like, no, not really, because if you're shy and quiet, that's who you are. So that's who you should be when you get on camera. I mean, if you're awful and you're, if it's just not going to work, video might not be for you. But there are people who resonate with shy, quiet, slow speaking people, and, find your people.
The one thing that Blab unequivocally is going to cause to happen, and that is that for full authenticity of who you are in your body language, your facial mannerisms, your tones, and you can't hide any of that. So, if you're going to try to put together a Blab with an eventual sales funnel in mind and find a way to monetize your Blab, you're out there in full scope. And so you can't hide behind this at all. So you might as well just, practice how you're coming across on camera and be authentic in your approach.
Are you kidding, Brad? I've got a cardboard cutout in front of me. This isn't really me. I'm over in another room right now. This is a cardboard cutout that I just
Chris.
I was going to say I've animated it.
Perfect. Great. Well, thank you guys for joining today. So I'm gonna stop recording, but I do have another Blab. My second real Blab is gonna be tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time with Vicky Lifchenko. So if anyone wants to join, Vicky is a blabber. She's had a show since January 1. So she's a little over a month in. She's a mompreneur and really has found Blab to be an amazing way to activate that community. So it's been a perfect match for her. So we're going to have her on tomorrow just talking about how she's using Blab. But thank you very much. Okay, killing the recording now.
Good job, Brighton.
Pause recording. Stop recording, maybe.